What's going on, everybody? Eric Lindquist at Stokastic here on the Odd Shopper channel, coming to you with another edition of Ladies, Leans, Likes, Locks in the NBA streets. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell. Goes a long way for me on this video, goes a long way for you. That way you become apprised whenever great content is going live here at our little neck of the YouTube woods. Going to be good times here with 11 games. We've now seen every single team play basketball. Well, I mean, they're in the middle of getting ready for this Milwaukee and Philadelphia one, but hey, otherwise, we've seen every team that's going to be playing here on Friday, so I'm excited for that. If you are too, smash that like button here as we get going. Got a lot to break down. Obviously, Jalen Duren was the bright spot there of Wednesday, ended up making it a profitable Wednesday. Keeping track of those bets for everybody in the premium Discord, but doing it on Twitter throughout the playoffs for MLB, then started up here in NBA. Going to move everything over to that Discord because, again, good to be kept accountable. Got to be kept accountable. It's good stuff, but glad to be featuring the tools here at Odd Shopper. Glad to be featuring everything that we're firing up day in, day out, helping you make a lot of money in these streets. Now, Bet365, we'll talk about them a little bit later, but if you want to get a head start in one of these 6 states, Kentucky, Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, Iowa, or Colorado, you can get yourself $150 in bet credits by betting $5, and it's actually $1 into $365 in Kentucky. That's still going on, so it's only for 21 and over, 18 and over in Kentucky. If you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. But I've gone through the box scores, did a lot of digging, some things that were very, very surprising. And you have one end of the spectrum, Max Strus playing infinity minutes. You have on the other end of the spectrum, Jaden Ivey playing 17. We got a lot to get to. I'm very excited for it. Producer Jacob, NBA's your baby too. Let's get to the picks. Our tour begins here with the Detroit Pistons taking on the Charlotte Hornets. And hey, good job, Charlotte, 1-0. It's one more game than I think I expected you to win. And a lot of people expected you to win. But good job, good effort, all of those things. And Detroit, of course, our star of the day, Jalen Duren, double-double with 6 minutes left there in the third quarter. Like, not even a question mark about it. No James Wiseman in the rotation because, again, why would James Wiseman be in the rotation? I don't know why people were projecting such things, but you got an interesting lineup, I would say, on the Charlotte side in a couple of situations. Like, specifically, Mark Williams is playing 30 minutes here at center. That seems to be a normal thing. Brandon Miller only played, I believe it was 24 and a half minutes on the dot. Yeah, 24-37 there. Good job, Eric. And then Nick Richards, 18 for him. Going through some of this, JT Thor getting 20-plus minutes on the bench for Charlotte. Probably not ideal. It's always weird because I feel like he's been in the league for 2 years. He's a baby. But JT Thor, not the best of all basketball players to have out there rocking and rolling. But I will say, one of the surprising things as you work through the box scores is seeing how teams shot. How are people going to react? Is the public going to move things in a certain direction? Because, again, Charlotte, 116-110, not exactly what you would be expecting out of them. You could expect a lot more points in a lot of their games going forward. But Detroit, 103, 102. You get a compressed spot against Miami. We expected them to play slow, third slowest pace in the NBA last season. Why would that have changed? It's not indicative of anything. Cade Cunningham played awesome. Went back and watched a lot of that basketball game because you couldn't watch every single game live, but wanted to watch at least a portion of everything. Cade Cunningham's really good. He looks a lot better coming off of the preseason to this year than what he did pre-injury, so that could be an exciting part for Detroit. But I repeat, Jaden Ivey, we're on high alert for that one. New coaching regime, that's going to do things, and Monty Williams does not want to play Jaden Ivey. Some interesting pieces there. Again, some diluted minutes there, getting to some bench guys. Thompson didn't shoot it all that well, but he'll end up bouncing back. I think the over is in play here for this one, but I'm not going to be betting it at 226, 226 and a half. Want it to be moving a little bit down to around 224, 225 if I'm going to pull the trigger. Otherwise, I'm happy to pass. We have 11 games to bet basketball on. I'm going to find tons of props when that becomes available in the marketplace more readily as we get some injury news. So just hold your horses. We'll find a lot better place on the board. Early basketball there in Memphis. It's weird. You don't normally see 7 p.m. Eastern time, 4 p.m. Pacific time start times for this Grizzlies team, but just get it out of the way early. You had Desmond Bane look really good. Oh, Desmond Bane, thought I won from the field. Losing to the Pelicans, though. Losing to the Pelicans. So Zion looks okay. Well, there's some things that need to change there, but we'll get to them in a little bit. As for right now, I am pretty focused in here on Memphis first, and it's because they have pieces that, I mean, the Marcus Smart under was going to come to fruition pretty much every single time. Luke Kennard did get dinged up here, but 17 points, 3 assists, 2 steals. Again, not really adding any of those rebounds. That's not what he's out there to do. Jaren Jackson, a floor beyond a floor game. Did not look impressive at all. Looked a little bit muddled there against the Pelicans. Gets up against an athlete like a Zion Williamson. Things aren't going to look as pretty for him because he's generally the best athlete out there. Him and Anthony Davis during that playoff series last season going block central on each other for 40 minutes. That was a lot of fun. But as you know, he doesn't keep his hands to himself from time to time. So I'm always interested in either backing him to block a million people at plus money or shorting his props across the industry, especially with Santi Aldama and Steven Adams continuing to be out here for this one. As for Denver, there is no way in God's green earth I expect Reggie Jackson to do whatever the hell we just watched him do. It was an outlier, beyond an outlier, beyond an outlier, beyond an outlier, beyond an outlier. Let's just be dead serious. This is not going to be what you get from Reggie Jackson. 24 minutes, led all bench players off the bench there, plus 11 in terms of plus mileage, 18.4% usage. But the main thing is he was making like competent decisions with the basketball. He did have 2 turnovers, but at least put guys in successful positions. Didn't get the assists to go for it, but like started the offense well, absent Jokic for a couple of those minutes. Got KCP a couple of open looks just by, little dribble handoffs and things of that nature. But this bench is going to be a problem. So let's not focus on the bench. Let's focus on the best bright spot of this game, and that was Nikola Jokic. This dude, our dude, came right back to the fray. Not the band, the playing basketball. 29, 13, and 11, triple-double there up against the Lakers. 36 minutes. Malone just said, you know what? You're really good. And you don't jump, so you're not really going to get in trouble falling on anybody, because that's not an issue. He's just so good. Guys, we got to be looking at triple doubles. It was kind of probably the biggest mistake that I made on that entire card between the first 2 days was not incorporating my guy, the legend, Jokic, because if he plays 34 minutes, again, we saw 36 out of him. He's going to create for this first unit, and this first unit is just going to be good again. They just are. Aaron Gordon, one of the top guys in terms of offensive rating last season. Did not expect to see that when I was updating my sheets a couple days ago. Didn't bring that up on the show before. Wanted to bring it up now. I don't know why. This is the play. Nikola Jokic triple-double next. Thank God the Knicks fell apart there towards the end of that game. It got hairy late for the Celtics for that lock. They came to fruition, and the Celtics, my God, there is some room for them to grow. There's not a whole lot of room here for this Knicks team if they're going to be playing these kind of rotations. Again, Quentin Grimes here in this starting unit. Not my favorite spot to necessarily have to have him go out and knock down threes for you to be an effective basketball team. I mean, that's what he's out there to do, I suppose, but want to at least throw it out there. That this Knicks team is not one that I'm going to be backing nearly as much as last season, although I still feel like they would be the value side of this one going up against Atlanta, because everything I just said about Atlanta losing to Charlotte is like alarm bells. Now, DeJounte Murray as a piece, I was excited when Minnesota was in trade discussions for, and I'm very happy that we did not end up with him. However, that'd be better than Gobert, so I'm miserable. I don't even want to talk about the Timberwolves. But Charlotte, for the most part, you work through the box, or sorry, not Charlotte. My apologies. That's who they lost to. Atlanta, when you work through this box score, a couple of things stick out. One, Clint Capella getting most of the center minutes here yet again, 28, 29. I'm going to be paying attention to his double-double and rebounding numbers, because Okongwu, I mean, he left for a second during that game. He left, came back at the 4-minute mark of the second quarter as I was working through the box scores. In my notes, it has double-double next to Clint Capella. However, I want to see the numbers here before I fire up such things. That seems important. That's like the most important part of sports betting. Not what you think is going to happen, but what are the chances you predict something's going to happen relative to their chances of doing that. And hey, OddsShopper can fire that up for you. In fact, one of the plays that actually stood out as the numbers started showing up here across the books today, this was actually more in like the 1-2% expected ROI vein. And that might not sound like a lot because it's not a lot, but I will say the Knicks going up against Atlanta, don't completely hate it, because this team is not going to go anywhere if they shoot the three like what we just saw. Jalen Johnson was a nuke, put up 21 and looked great off the bench. Probably should have been starting over Saddiq Bey, but that's a conversation for a different day. 1-3 for Trae Young. You're not going to win many basketball games when Trae Young goes out and hits 1-3. In fact, this team shot worse than 20% from three, so that is not what you want. I think the Knicks can do enough here. I think this is at plus 110 would be a value spot. Again, I can sit around, wait, pick my spots carefully on these massive slates, so I think you should too. I'm going to call it a lean here on the Knicks side. Now, there's only one lock on the card today, but if I had to add a second, if you said, Eric, you have to make a second lock play, this would be it. We've got the Boston Celtics hosting the Miami Heat, and Miami Heat, a 1-point victory against Detroit at home. It's a one-game sample size. Cade Cunningham, again, 13 for 27 from the floor, looked really good leading that offense. Turin got what he wanted, though. Stewart got what he wanted, and you work through this rotation here. 28 minutes for Kevin Love right out of the gate. He's kind of a bright spot for this team. I almost pulled the trigger on a double-double for him later in that day. Again, double-double, triple-double odds. Those have been very, very profitable, specifically when you're paying attention to FanDuel Sportsbook. That's where you got the Duren number at plus 250. It moved down to plus 220 at close. Everybody kept betting that thing, and, well, it smashed because this front court, you have a dusty Kevin Love, although looked really good and knocked down the open shot. If he's knocking down threes, 3 for 6 from 3, he's going to make his way into more court time than expected. But I suppose the big absence for me is just Max Strus showing up in Cleveland and showing that, yeah, I can do some things. Gabe Vincent kills some of that depth. Duncan Robinson, we know these out there to shoot threes. He goes 3 for 5 from 3 to keep that thing close. Got, you know, the Cody Martin version there, 20 minutes for him, 1 for 7 from the field. Yeah, I'll keep Kevin Love on the floor in those type of situations, but I think the main thing that I wanted to make note of here is that this is a Miami Heat team that is not as good as last season. You work through this roster, and I don't know, Tyler Hero shot the ball pretty poorly, kind of fed right into that narrative of like, why do teams not want him? What is going on? He was plus 6 in terms of plus minus. That's going to happen when you have Butler and Bam Adebayo and Kyle Lowry and Kevin Love existing in your life. But 7 for 24 from the field, that's a Zoid Scoob kind of situation. Oh, and then the Boston Celtics that we locked. It got hairy. They covered the 3.5 for people who went that direction, as well as the money line. Again, happy to be giving you locks that could be minus 165. Happy to give you locks that are plus 250. Got a little bit of something for everybody, or the Wembanyama one at minus 110 that still has me tilted, and we will get into that. But the Boston Celtics, Kristaps Porzingis fits in so perfectly with this basketball team. Said that from the jump. This is an improved roster, no doubt about it. It just is. You get minutes from Kristaps Porzingis. Worked through it on Lindy's Locks updates 2 days ago there when we broke everything down on Wednesday, but worked through that rotation. He's better offensively, better defensively, better in terms of true shooting percentage, better in so many facets of the game of basketball, and I think he just fits so nicely alongside Jaylen Brown, who played terrible. You got Jason Tatum, who played fantastic, and then Drew Holiday, who didn't have his shot, but was doing so many other little things that you expect Drew Holiday to do and bring a winning basketball culture here to this Celtics team. What is that? It's defense. It's making Julius Randle his you-know-what. He made Julius Randle. Did you watch him guarding Julius Randle? Drew Holiday can guard a lot of people, and that dimension cannot be talked about enough. If they're going to give him the leeway, that's something that back in other systems once upon a time playing in Milwaukee, you didn't see that very much. You didn't see it in New Orleans. Played pretty guard structurally, but first game out of the bat, Julius Randle, when guarded by Mr. Drew Holiday, looked completely lost. That's an exciting thing to throw out there. So I don't expect him to be guarding Bam Adebayo or Kevin Love here in this spot. I assume the Jimmy Butler matchup in a lot of spots. But again, it's not about individual matchup, but it's about a hybrid defensive piece who adds that element to your basketball team. I'm telling you, the Celtics, they led the entire NBA in 2023 in adjusted net rating by a ways, and the roster got better. Specifically, the guys who are playing the most. Yeah, you don't have the bench depth that you were probably looking for, but like 39 minutes from Tatum, 38 from Porzingis, as long as he keeps it together and is knocking down open shots, leading the team in plus minus plus 13. Near lock type stuff here with Boston, but Want to have you be careful. -7.5, friends. -7.5. Click next. The Oklahoma City Thunder. Again, we're talking about one-game sample sizes, and not everything needs to be legend. And I mean, if we're talking about like the Andre Drummond crossover that everybody saw, Chet Holmgren on his bum, guess what? I'll still take Chet Holmgren. Thank you very much. Drive home safely, everybody. Complete schlacking there in Chicago of the Chicago Bulls. They are going to be a very bad basketball team yet again. I think another mistake might have been to not pull the trigger there on OKC, but you don't want to get in a habit of betting too much too early here on a 12-game slate. I was pretty happy with the betting card, even though it brought in very minimal dividends there, just over 2 units. And hey, if I had just bet Duran for the day, it would have been a beautiful time to be alive. Would have been even a tiny bit. It's like 0.3. Again, tracking everything for you. You can check it out over on X. Keeping myself accountable, because that is what you should do. And I believe in the tools here that we have at OddsShopper. And well, they've made me profitable for a while. They're going to make you profitable too. But, you know, you can sign up for that down below. We can talk about that on other programs and things of that nature. You want to pick, do you? You want to pick here? Well, it's going to be somebody that I'm paying attention to here on the Cleveland side of things, because OKC, pretty easy to break down what happened there. You had Shea Gilgeous-Alexander just be absolutely that dude again. Chet Holmgren's going to fit in nicely in the NBA, although the rebound rate's going to look really wonky, considering I don't think he's that guy. We did hit 2 threes from Jalen Williams. That was a big one for me. Over 1.5 at +190. Half unit on that. Nearly a full unit return. If you had put a unit, 2-unit return. Anyway, you tick for tat. This, my friends, is absurd from the Cleveland side. Cleveland playing Max Strus, the most minutes that anybody else played in basketball, 39. He played the most minutes of anybody on opening night. Now, they used to do this shit with like Isaac Okoro once upon a time. At least it's not Isaac Okoro, who's basically a net nothing when you put in his numbers outside of anything. Going back to his Auburn days, maybe he scored a little bit. But guess what? In the NBA, he's not that dude, even though you saw him go 6 for 10, 2 for 4 for 3. Want to just throw that out there. We'd be looking at shorting him too, but something tells me people get really excited about the guys who go completely ballistic. Hey, Max Strus put up 27 on opening night, 12 rebounds, things of that nature. Brooklyn, they kind of let him shoot. It was strange how Brooklyn was handling Max Strus once he got hot. Again, normally you want to hand in somebody's face, but George Niang played 20 minutes. Karis LeVert, 31 minutes. I think Karis LeVert got a pretty quick hook just because, well, towards the end of that game, 4 for 17 from the field. They ended up going with Max Strus for a little bit of extra run. He had it going. I think you could very easily see LeVert get up to 32, 34 minutes off the bench and have that take away from Strus if the shot isn't going down. So you want to be sensitive to what these numbers show up as and then where the public moves them to. So I'm very curious to see where Max Strus points prop opens up, considering, again, he played the most minutes of anybody, period. So I have kind of a fun one. Max Strus under infinity and beyond. Under infinity minutes. He's not going to play 39 again. If he does, just punch me. And then the under of his points, I'm going to be paying very close attention to open. Where is it? It might look low to some people. It might. He might get bet up if it's like a 13.5, 14.5, 15.5. Just saying. Market-based approach, going to be looking at shorting him if the number is right. That's a great reason to be on the premium Discord or following me at Eric Lindquist so I can give you updated information. Again, keeping myself accountable. My dear friends, I talked about it before. Let's talk about super quick for the people who are in these 6 states. Attention, Kentucky, Virginia, Ohio, New Jersey, Iowa, and Colorado. If you're in one of those 6 states, congratulations. This is an awesome sportsbook, Bet365, and you have a great opportunity to simply bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets with no other strings attached. It's as simple as that. If you're in Kentucky, that's $1 that turns into $365 in bonus bets. This is a reputable sportsbook internationally. This is a sportsbook that's just starting to come stateside, getting its bearings, trying out some different spots. Obviously, New Jersey has been the hotbed. They were the first people, other than Nevada, to legalize sports betting here within this great country. But I'm telling you, bet 5, get 150 in bonus bets. It doesn't take a whole lot to know that that's a pretty sick deal. So, no other strings attached. Go down to that link, sign up, get yourself some goodness here to start off your Friday right, get your weekend in the right direction, and guarantee yourself a W on Friday. It's only if you're 21 and over, and if you have a gambling problem, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. Alrighty, all back to the picks. I'm not sure what I want to take away from the Toronto-Minnesota game other than I'm broken inside, and I would rather have a lot of people in my life rather than Rudy Gobert, and we overpaid to the absolute max on him, and this contract is going to sink us. But again, not talking about Minnesota. Low-scoring 97-94 output there. Scotty Barnes leading the team in usage alongside identical usage of 26.4%. Dennis Schroeder picking up where he left off during FIBA. I think he won FIBA MVP. Correct me if I'm wrong, producer Jacob. He sure frickin' did. That's champion of the world. That's pretty good. But for a guy who was in the doldrums after not accepting a major deal with the Lakers, to come back, fight his way back, end up on the Lakers, play himself into a decent contract here with Toronto, and then win that MVP internationally, that is cool stuff. Kind of hard not to cheer for him. Also, a pretty darn good defensive piece. I don't know if we're going to see him have any of the offensive output that you're going to get from like a Fred VanVleet going forward. Surely not his 14-point outing that we saw against the Magic, but I digress. You're going to see Dennis Schroeder be somebody that's actually relied upon for this Toronto team. So really love the comeback story there. Obviously, the main attraction, Scotty Barnes, OG Anunoby, those two. You're going to go as far as your wings go there in Toronto. Pretty condensed rotation outside of that. You ended up getting Precious Achiuwa in there for 24 minutes, Gary Trent for 26 and a half, and then basically like Jalen McDaniels with like a sprinkle of Malachi Flynn. Most teams going to 9 or 10-man rotations. This is like an 8.5-man rotation. So I do think condensed volume. What happens is that there are going to be certain matchups where maybe that they extend that, maybe they don't. But opening night to only play 8/8.5 dudes. It's a pretty telling thing here. Toronto going to play their guys a lot. Maybe we can look at nuking some overs, especially against a team that defensively, I mean, what are we even looking at for this box score here from the Bulls? I went back through and watched, because again, I watched the crossover Andre Drummond madness just like everybody else, and there were 3 other games going on, and I was recording and trying to make sure that I was keeping notes on everything. And my main takeaway from watching the beginning of the fourth quarter of that Oklahoma City-Chicago game is what the fuck are the Bulls doing on defense? Not even making attempts. And I know Vooch, not a great defender. I know we have Levine, not a great defender. I know we have DeRozan, not a very intense defender, if you will, but DeRozan, he was the major problem. He looked really poor in certain aspects on the defensive end. Again, added 20 points, 9 for 20 from the field. You know what you're getting with him. You're getting a lot of mid-range, and he's going to continue to be the king of the mid-range for this team. Too bad the mid-range only counts for 2. Just throwing it out there. It's math. But this is also math. Minus 29. That's not the plus-minus I want to see from DeMar DeRozan right out of the gate. Again, plus-minus is a very loud, noisy statistic. But when you're trying to analyze things on the fly, as we start to get base ratings, as we start to add to the adjusted rating, the defensive adjusted rating, as I start updating dunks and threes, as I start figuring out who's for real and who's not early on in this, Chicago, I expected to be better defensively. 2023, they were 5th in adjusted defensive rating. Now, maybe this is just Oklahoma City is that electric. Maybe OKC is going to bring the house down, but I still think that they're a little bit further away from the top 4, top 5 seed that some people think they might have a jump to get to with Chet Holmgren now on that front court. I'm not necessarily saying that. And that's a problem here for the East. It should be a cakewalk for Chicago to find themselves in contention here with at least those big 3, or the poor man's big 3, as I called them on Wednesday. But it is so true to me. You have to be on high alert if you're this team. Now, we talked a lot about a game that I don't even have a play from. +2, I'm going to be leaning here on the Toronto side. I like the condensed rotation. I think Chicago, there are some major changes that they're going to have to make, and I bet they make them to a certain extent. One, you got to find a way to get engaged defensively. And one of the ways to do that, get Alex Caruso, get him on the frickin' floor. Less than 20 minutes for Alex Caruso. Get Kobe White out of there if he isn't going to be just completely setting the world on fire. Kind of a surprise start-ish. Again, there's some surprising things with rotations. Can't get into all of them, but this, Toronto +2, could very well turn into a play if it gets to 2.5 in an instant. We are 3-1 on locks in the early going. Didn't end up having a lock on Thursday. The board was just disgusting. A lot of unknowns there on the Sun side. I did end up firing that +6.5, so hopefully that pans out. Just a half unit, but no full unit plays on anything other than Tampa Bay over 16.5, team total at -1.5. I don't want to turn on that football game here in a bit. It's going to be bad. I haven't seen a second of it. But the Rockets taking on the Spurs here in this one. The only lock that we've missed is obviously Victor Wembanyama. Not disappointing, I would say, in the debut. I know that that's some type of the rhetoric people want to use. It was disappointing that Tony Brothers called 48,594 fouls on him, and ticky-tack fouls, and reach-in fouls. It was almost like a rookie hazing. Welcome to the league, buddy. I'm Tony Brothers, and I'm the star of this thing. Buddy, nobody cares. Blow your whistle when it's obvious. Get out of here with this stuff. We wanted to watch more than 24 minutes of Victor Wembanyama. I think it was kind of for him an awakening of how he needs to play defensively and challenge shots. Maybe not necessarily overcommit, but again, there were some reach-ins that were so ticky-tack, and that killed the over there of the PRA. I was not alone. As I started looking at tickets across the industry, a lot of people landed on the same conclusion that I did. I know that there were pick'em sites that had 20 and a halfs that were sitting there, 25 and a half, 26 and a half is kind of where it lingered at. And Dallas, we knew that they were going to play slow. Lucas set the world on fire. Overall, though, my main takeaway from the Spurs is that they didn't really call any set plays for Victor Wembanyama where they got him in motion. They ran that great alley-oop drill. Can you tell this is the game I watched the most? You could see that they ran that absolute ridiculous play for Keldon Johnson twice where he had great finishes at the rim, backdoor screens, back picks on specific guys like Maxi Kleber, who aren't the most fleet of foot at this point in time, but can keep in front of you if you let them in terms of he's just a smart defender. And they found ways in space to get Keldon Johnson there. Jeremy Sohan running the point wasn't a complete disaster, although I don't want that long-term. Do you want that long-term? I don't want that long-term. And lastly, you saw Devin Vassell. He might be a guy that you look back on this season and say, he's better than I expected him to be, because we're all going to watch a lot of Wembanyama basketball. Let's not kid ourselves. But I'm not panicking. You shouldn't be panicking. None of us should be panicking. Cool? Great. Let's talk about the Rockets that I don't think had the best time down in Orlando. They didn't go to Disney World. No. They didn't go putt-putt golfing at Jungle Golf or whatever the shit it's called. No. They got their butts kicked by Jonathan Isaac playing minimal minutes and blocking guys and then walking over them, which is kind of fun. And again, probably the guy I cheer for the most in the entire NBA that's not on the Minnesota Timberwolves. I also saw just Orlando, a young nucleus that's going to have pieces, and thinking about things, I should probably upgrade that play as I'm looking at it and rerunning it. More books coming out with lines here by the second. I'm going to actually run that in the background and see if I can upgrade that one, because I have Portland. Portland is going to be bad, but Houston's not going to be as bad as what we saw there in that debut for Fred VanVleet here. Only 14 points for him, 1 rebound, 5 assists in 34 minutes, complete blowout, 30-point loss. It's a one-game sample. This team has pieces. Now, how these pieces are going to gel and why they gave Fred VanVleet and Dylan Brooks, who, by the way, might have been the best shooter on the floor for them in that game. That was weird to watch Dylan Brooks, getting wide open looks. Here's the thing. If he starts knocking that shot down, then you start assessing it going forward, but he's going to be overconfident. It was an absurd blowout. I'm not going to read too much into it. Jabari Smith's going to be fine. Thompson's going to be fine. And so is Alperen Sengun, who I thought was the all-star of that first half for them. Got in a little bit of foul trouble there. Picked up that fourth one pretty quick there in the third quarter, and it was all downhill from there. Didn't need to play any of those guys late in it. Only 28 minutes, 28 and a half minutes to be exact there for Alperen Sengun. Like the rates, like what we saw from him offensively here, also out there creating. I think that's just what his calling card is going to be. One of the more special offensive center basketball talents that there is in the NBA. Yeah, I know that sounds like a wild thing to say, but 14, 8, and 6, they don't just hand that out here, especially against a team like Orlando that's getting more stout defensively, even though Wendell Carter Jr. never going to be that guy. So, Alperen Sengun, looking at him to double-double, along with the Houston money line for maybe a little bit of a piece here. Maybe a little bit of a piece. Again, all eyes on Wembanyama. That team's going to take a little bit to gel, but Houston, they're not as bad as what they played in that opening game. And I think that's factored into this number just a teeny tiny 2-bit. Just a little bit too much. Nets, Nets. Oh my God. So glad I didn't bet plus 600 on the double-double number that was existing there for Ben Simmons. The triple-double was, I was building that out by hand over on DK. 10 plus 10 plus 10 being plus 4,000, plus 5,000 for, depending on what time of the day you were looking at that. Don't forget to do that over on DraftKings when I'm talking about the double-double, triple-double. Always double-check. Building it out by hand sometimes might give you a better number than clicking on it and seeing the uniform number. So if it's in Odd Shopper and it's already projecting out well, or if it's showing up in my sheet, Sally sells seashells by a seashore. I'm telling you, you need to try building some of them out by hand, especially if I end up liking or locking something. It's a good thing to double check because those odds are ever changing. And again, the trying to build tools for that it's an absolute disaster, and I wouldn't wish it upon anybody. Again, now they have that yellow screen on DK where it's static odds changing. Some of you don't care, and that's fine. I care about this game, though. Luka Doncic went absolutely ballistic, didn't he? Oh, yeah. He had like a remember me game, but don't forget about Kyrie Irving. One of the things that I said coming into this season, and I will stand by it, is that you get two guys who are as good at the game of basketball as what they've been for years. You get them healthy. You give them an offseason to work out together. They're going to make it work. Now, they did do a lot of that staggering as you look at the rotations, but Kyrie Irving, nice to see him with a 29% usage, playing off the ball, knocking down open threes when needed, only hit the one, I suppose, but was actually there in motion and doing some creating for Luka himself, added 6 assists to the fray. Tim Hardaway Jr. comes off the bench. He's really the only other offensive piece, and I think everybody and their mom is going to want to talk about Derek Lively here for that performance. Outlier. Plus 20 in the box score. Next guy, Tim Hardaway Jr., plus 9. Luka with the triple-double was only plus 4. Now, of course, if you're a starter, you're facing Wembanyama, the starting unit there for the Spurs. A lot better than like Malachi Branham and some of these other dudes coming off of the bench for them. So it's going to change it a little bit for a Tim Hardaway Jr. and obviously for Mr. Lively there too. And they started making some adjustments later in the game. A little bit late, but there's no doubt that he's a fun, interesting piece. I just simply think that he's one of those guys that the public in primetime spots might push the numbers a little bit further where we can start shorting them. Have you noticed? I'm talking about shorting a lot of players coming off of good games. It is a big component of the NBA early. I have way more unders on my cards than probably people would like, and that is okay with me. I want to give you good bets, and if you choose to take the information, so be it. But I got some 1099s to back it up. It's what it is. We want to make good bets. And in that nature, I'm going right back to the well here on Ben Simmons. I doubt we get the same type of numbers that were showing up. Again, pretty big numbers at plus 600 when you're talking about, well, because he has to get there with rebounds and assists, but he came one shy of pulling off the feet. If they run back that number, I can't see it yet. If they run back plus 500 or better, you're pulling the trigger instantly. It would almost be like a unit play, but even plus 400 is in the realm for me here. He played a lot more minutes than what I was expecting. I didn't know how these rotations were going to work out or who is going to basically have all of the usage on this team. He has a lot of problems shooting the ball still. So the trouble I have for going to the triple-double this time around, did you notice he switched shooting hands? Am I the only person? I didn't see anybody talk about it on Twitter. He was shooting with his right hand every single shot. I'm pretty sure I watched him shoot with the left hand last time he was playing basketball. So I don't know. It was in my notes. Why is he shooting right-handed? Oh, yeah, because he can't shoot, so you might as well try anything at that point. But he can pass. He can also rebound. He's going to be playing around 28 minutes probably per night here in competitive spots. He only played 23 there in this spot, kind of got acclimated, but defensively, he adds a lot to this team. And Cam Thomas, is he going to go out and put up, 36 again? 45% usage? No, he is not. No, he is not. Ben Simmons, double-double. My dear, sweet friends, again, Odd Shopper. This is what I am using to shop for my lines every single day. Expected value bets, the top ones on the board. Do you know how I identified Jalen Duren? Well, I shall tell you. I went through all of the projections that I normally do for the DFS side, and then I go through all of the odd shopper plays on the board and I matched them up. And you know what matched up at the top? Jalen Duren, double-double plus 250. If you want those kind of plays for yourself day in, day out, where I'm going to teach you to identify different stuff over on Lindy's Locks Update, but Odd Shopper can teach you to identify positive EV plays without me. You don't need me in order to make positive EV plays, and part of that is just by checking out Odd Shopper day in, day out, finding the bets that are the ones that you identify the best, and then fire them up. Again, it's a market-based approach. You're taking the best lines available by being signed up at multiple sports books, and you are capitalizing. And hey, if there are only 3 or 4 books that you have availability to, or maybe even only one, you can sort by that specific book and find the best plays for that book. That is phenomenal stuff. If you want to be a serious sports bettor, if you want to be just a casual, profitable sports bettor, there's no easier tool to try out for the first time than Odd Shopper Premium. If you ever have any questions, hit me up on Twitter at Eric Lindquist. Go ahead and DM me. Nice things, please. But anyway, 50% off, code SLAMDUNK50. Awesome, Odd Shopper, my friends. Alrighty, y'all, back to the picks. We got 3 games to go. Hit that like button, subscribe button, notification bell as we head to what I'm going to consider the main event because, my friends, there's a day off in between. We're going to see back-to-backs coming down the pipeline. But right now, Terrence Mann already confirmed out whether or not that's attached to James Harden potentially going there in some quiet capacity. They're still probably trying. He's not traveling with an ankle issue here with the Clippers. He didn't go up to Portland. He's not going over here to Utah. So I don't know what to make of it. But the back-to-back things really, really matters to me because you are not going to see a hindered Kawhi Leonard and Paul George on the front end of these back-to-backs. I also think when you look at the schedule going forward, when there's no back-to-back sitting there, you got to be excited to fire these guys up. They will come back and play on Sunday in LA against Wembanyama and the San Antonio Spurs. So day off in between, Thursday day off, and then Saturday day off. That is all systems go to back this Clippers team that picked up right where they left off, because when healthy, I don't think people just remember how good Kawhi Leonard and Paul George can be when sharing a floor. Would you like me to get into a little bit of it? Sounds great. I thought you'd never ask, but you go back to 2023 and you look at adjusted net ratings with them on the floor together, they are top 10 in basketball. You know where they are in terms of offensive rating without each other on the floor? Like when they're both hurt and stuff? They're 26th. You know what their adjusted offensive rating is when you have just Paul George? 21st. We're talking about a chasm of difference between having both of them on the floor there. They're a top 10 offensive team in basketball. And then you know the defensive abilities that both of those individuals have. Now, there are only 2 pieces of the puzzle. Russell Westbrook, he got about as cake puff of a matchup as you could ever ask for, getting Scoot Henderson, who's supposed to be defensively. I did not see that. Anthony Simons, my friends, not going to be great defensively. This is going to be a terrible, no good, very bad Portland team. They were 33-49. No Damian Lillard. They get Scoot, who he can't play a whole hell of a lot worse than what you just saw him play here in that spot. But want to at least just throw that out there. But we'll save that here for the Portland side. Anyway, going back to the Clippers, nice to see them be able to have a really nice outing there from the get-go. It ended up being a blowout. Got a little bit tighter there late. 12-point win. It was way worse than that when you go through the entire box score of it. Now, let's look at Utah. This is not going to be as good of a Utah Jazz team. They got completely shut out by Sacramento with De'Aaron Fox playing like C- basketball. Again, it's a 1-game sample size. We don't want to go crazy. But I was shocked when I pulled this line up here at 3.5 because I kind of come up with my own numbers and try to figure out exactly where I would be setting the line. I had this at 6. 2.5 point difference this early in the season. Now, it's not the absolute complete like slam dunk that a normal lock might be on a different kind of a slate. Again, I'm waiting for props. Props are going to be my jam. It's what I'm the best at. Bet the things that you're the best at. And again, I've got Odd Shopper to help me, but 6. You're talking about a 2.5 point difference. You want to go bet this now. It's going to move close to that. This could be, if it moves to 4.5, I dare say it's only a like. If it gets to 5, it's unbettable 5.5. I would just be staying away. But I do think this Clippers team is exponentially better than what we saw. Now, Utah, Lauri Markkanen, didn't have the kind of usage you would want. I don't want Jordan Clarkson having 28.3% usage and leading my team. I know that there's nothing else that he does from a basketball perspective, but is what it is. I don't want Chris Dunn coming off the bench playing 15 minutes and having a 30.2% usage. Colin Sexton still looks like he's working himself back. Why does he have a 30% usage rate in just 20 minutes? This is a lost kind of situation. Talen Horton-Tucker, I don't know what to make of that outing, but 22 minutes, we've seen him be feast or famine. That was very, very famine-like, if you ask me. Don't really like the fit of this entire team. Kelly Olynyk coming off the bench still. He used to be able to provide a spark. Maybe this is just a team that needs to get acclimated a little bit here, but opening night was not very inspiring going up against that Sacramento team that, yeah, we expect them to be better again this season. And you just saw Harrison Barnes eviscerate them in a first half, the likes of which I haven't seen. I played basketball against Harrison Barnes at Iowa State in a rec when I was 19 years old, and he was like 14 or 15 years old. He was a freak then. I haven't seen that version of him since then, or maybe his UNC days, maybe his sixth man days there in Golden State. It was a Harrison Barnes that I'm not familiar with, but I don't think it's so much Harrison Barnes, even though you look great, as what it is this defensive squad that just doesn't have answers for any piece on the floor whatsoever besides the center position. And you know what? Know what position doesn't need to get a whole lot of production for these Clippers in this spot? You got it. Zubats, he's just happy to play low usage basketball, get tip-ins. Walker Kessler are going to be a little bit neutralized there. That's exactly what you saw there. Getting pulled away from the basket by Sabonis, 15, 18 feet out. Not many block opportunities. They played that perfectly, to perfection. I don't expect the Clippers to do a lot of the same things, but I expect them to put their thumb down on the pulse and just, it's gone. I don't know what that was to signify. That was a weird analogy. But the Clippers, -3.5, my favorite bet of the entire board as of right now. Get it now, get it early, get it right, get it tight. We're going out with a little bit of a whimper here, my friends. The Portland Trail Blazers. Oh boy, they looked atrocious, and Orlando could not have looked a lot better. You know what? I'm going to start with the home team actually here. I can do whatever I want. It's my program. But I'm looking at the Portland Trail Blazers, friends. They're going to be one of the worst teams in basketball, and why Jeremy Grant wanted to stay around there, or why I wanted to go there in the first place, is kind of beyond me. Oh yeah, money. Money's fun. I like money too, so that's why we're doing these shows, is to like make you money, and I like betting and you like betting, and here we are. We're having fun. We're having fun. But you go back to some of these numbers here for Portland, and it was an absolute cluster. You know what? Shade and Sharp played 28 minutes, a lot more than what I was projecting there, mainly because you got the blowout. And yeah, Malcolm Brogdon looked a little bit better, but 31% usage. You're not going to want 31% usage from Malcolm Brogdon. He's trying to play himself out of Portland, if I had to guess. DeAndre Ayton, God, again, this is just a basketball team that's really, really rough. Now, they have enough pieces that maybe they can get it together sooner rather than later. I mean, Simon's got the bag, Scoot, the draft equity. You got Jeremy Grant, who's been a serviceable big for a while. And then, yeah, DeAndre Ayton is your center, your five. Robert Williams, that's kind of a bummer. Again, I would want him on a different team. There are pieces here. It's going to take him a little bit of time. How much time, I don't really know. Again, 2.5 is a little bit surprising considering how well one team played, how well the other team played. Then again, one team played Houston, the other one played the Clippers, and they're on different ends, and we can all kind of appreciate that, correct? Also, one game sample sizes and things. You're going to see Scoot play a lot better than what you saw out of him in those 35 minutes of doing absolutely nothing. -16 on the floor. Not as bad as Simon's, -27. The defensive problems there are going to they're not going to go away. But yeah, we're going to look over on the other side of this one, Orlando. It's weird to start with a guy who played like 10 minutes, but I'm going to. One of the best moments of basketball is when Jonathan Isaac checks into a game, plays a rotation, and doesn't get hurt. It makes my heart happy because I think he's one of the better underrated basketball players who just ran bad. And injuries are a part of sport. They're a part of life. Bad breaks, good breaks, things of that nature. And I'm trying to do projecting of human capacities and trying to help you guys make money by telling you who I think is going to perform well and not perform well. If Jonathan Isaac can ramp it up, like play beyond the 10, 12 minutes, I'm legitimately talking about a guy who could lead this Orlando team in a lot of defensive categories. Again, 14 minutes that we saw from him there. Didn't see the blocks or steals, but you saw the energy. You saw that one block for sure. And I think they're going to be a really good bench unit with Jalen Suggs. Goga Batadze is actually, I mean, he's not in the rotation right now, but just saying he's a person who exists there. Joe Ingles is on this team. Mo Wagner, yeah. And then, of course, Franz Wagner. Cole Anthony went berserk off the bench. A decent 20-point outing in 24 minutes. There's a lot of ways that this Orlando team can do damage. I'm definitely going to be leaning their direction here on the road, but 2.5-point favorites. I think I'm just going to start accumulating sample size with them. I enjoy watching the complexion of this basketball team. I think they've got a bright future. Paulo Banchero being that dude, being that number one pick off of last year, and able to affect the games in ways that aren't just scoring. And that's kind of why I love him and Franz Wagner. Markelle Fultz goes in that category here as well. Let Cole Anthony chuck it to the cows come home. And I hate watching Gary Harris play basketball. That's the last thing I'd throw out there. There you go. -2.5, just a lean, want a better number. And the last game of the night, my friends, we go to Golden State taking on Sacramento, and I don't have a whole lot to break down for you here. We all saw Sacramento. They ran the doors off of Utah, growing up, going down, playing with pace yet again. It's all about that pace, no trouble. But you know what? Number one in pace last season was Golden State Warriors. I don't know if that's going to continue with Chris Paul here at the helm. They were 11th in terms of pace amongst, again, one game sample size. That's all we have on anybody, but 102 possessions per 48 minutes. That is a drastic difference from what we saw last season where they were, well, I mean, it was 102.1, but still, there's going to be an accumulated sample size that is going to bring that down. And also Indiana just ruined the model. We didn't have to talk about them today, but oh my God, did they play fast? Oh my God. 111 possessions per 48. That number, it is so big. It's like one of those rapper guys' numbers. That's not a funny joke. I don't know. I love Sir Mix a lot. Anyway, I do love staying away from this basketball game in general because it's two competitive teams. They matched up in the playoffs last season. It was an amazing series. Won a 7th game. De'Aaron Fox gets stinged up. It sucked. Battle of the Bay. I'm just excited to watch this from a real-life perspective. Draymond Green going to be out here yet again for this one. Already been announced, but Chris Paul played pretty good. Just the ball's going to stop a lot more. 34 minutes for him. 14, 9, and 6. Moses Moody came off the bench, knocked down shots. Jonathan Kuminga gonna have to play well again. Saw Dario Saric. He was pretty good. Again, lots of pieces on both sides that look good. Harrison Barnes. We're not even going to get into that. Expect De'Aaron Fox. Expect Domantas Sabonis to just take right back where they left off here. Should be a competitive game, and normally that's a stay away. You just don't want to deal with this. Golden State, Sacramento, fun one to watch. Gonna stay away. Golden State money line if I must. Give me +120 with a team that has some guys who have been there, done that, and doubt they want to go to 0-2, although it's probably where they end up. And that does it for another edition of Lindy's Leans, Likes, and Locks. You know what to do. Go to that comment section below. Let me know your favorite plays that exist here on the board for Friday. It's been a great first week of the NBA here. Really enjoyed sweating, talking through a lot of the stuff in the premium Discord. If you want to join that, stokastic.com/Lindy. I'm hanging in there, taking questions, answering your questions, being forthright with my plays, giving you betting analysis every single day. Well, not 24/7. Saturdays are normally my day of rest, but they won't be this time around. No. We've got World Series baseball. Check out MLB Lindy's. Going to be breaking down all the ins and outs there of that game 2 it will be. I've got MLB Lindy's coming out here for you here also. Game 1, check that out here if you're in the baseball streets and you're so inclined. But hey, thank you, Jalen Duran. We love you. We love you. Anyway, producer Jacob, we also love you too. Bet365, they're good stuff. So many good things here in the NBA streets. Excited to just get better and better as we go along here talking hoops. It's my bread and butter. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, smash that like button. Until next time, friends, I'm Eric Lindquist. Best of luck in the NBA streets on Friday.